Pleasure. Her daughter got engaged and had introduced fiance to the extended family.
Our oldest three daughters now produce a grandchild, so we joke that we wouldn't produce our own.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one, the fourth oldest, finally brought one along in October.
Great.
Yeah.
Where are they?
One in Brussels, one in Massachusetts,
Great.
two in Philly,
Assistant
one in
facility manager. There's too old, but she's the oldest one.
It continues to be an adventure, doesn't it?
yeah. You know, they keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Quite an adventure.
My girls all have
Outside
children,
is
and one of them is up to me.
Most of my family's in Mendoza.
When she was struggling
The
with
wine
an
country.
issue with
Stayed in
her
a winery.
child who was 22 at the time.
So much of the architecture would be one of the more interesting
Why
architecture.
don't you ever tell me that once they grow up to be 18 and you think they're going off to school and therefore they're going to be independent, that it never ends.
Yeah.
You're right, it never ends.
The 25 is the dawning of a real person.
That's right.
But you're right, it never ends even after that.
Terrible.
Bonnie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
We just had to
So
score.
you do have a quorum in the room.
Yep. Thank you.
So I will go ahead and hit record, and when it turns 5 o'clock, you can go ahead and start.
All right, everyone, welcome. Today is Tuesday, May 5th, Picken County Planning and Zoning regular meeting. Today in the room we have Joe Mason, Doug, Suzanne, and myself. And any comments from commissioners before we get started? Planning staff comments?
I think Suzanne, there she is.
There she is.
Yeah. Hi all, sorry I'm not with you in the room. Just wanted to let you know that we're still finalizing your resolution from last week on the airport. Rye is having the last look at it, so hopefully I will have that to you tomorrow morning, Zach.
Okay, great.
Just wanted to give you an update on that.
Thank you.
And I have a question about that, Suzanne and Zach and everybody else. Our agreement on that was that if we wanted to make changes, clarifications to that, we would do it and circulate it with you and the rest of the P and Z. Is that right? Because I've never seen that done before.
I think we mentioned that, I think really most appropriately, since it was approved at the last meeting, we would send it to Zach for him to review if he'd like to get, if he would like to share it with you all. At that point, if there were any substantive changes, we can't change the substance of it, but if you didn't think we quite captured exactly, some things, there could be some cleaning up, I think, of language. But again, if it was, I'd need Rye to chime in on, I think if you wanted to, reconsider based the language that, we thought we captured from the meeting, there would have to be some different type of action on that. So I think fine if Zach wants to share it with the other members from who were at the meeting last week. And if there's some, edits along that way. Obviously, if you think we did not capture it, then I think there's a different conversation to be had.
And how would we decide that?
Again, I think I would need Rye to help me out. I don't think he's on the meeting yet. I know he plans to join virtually on what it takes. I don't know if that's a reconsideration or what that takes to actually bring it back formally in front of you.
Okay.
But we could, hopefully he'll join in. I can give him a heads up and maybe we can circle back to that at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Do we have any comments from the public that are not about the agenda this evening? All right, great. Well, we'll start off. 290 Heather Lane Realty, LLC, GMQS, Urban Growth Boundary Application, Franco.
That's good. Go for it. Yeah, the mic is over here.
Yeah. Yes, let me just pull up the. If it loads. It's a slideshow, okay. Great. Yes, thank you, Chair. This application is the GMQS application for additional residential floor area within the Aspen Urban Growth Boundary, activity envelope review and site plan review. The applicant's is 290 Heather Lane Realty, LLC. The applicant's representative is here, Chris Bendon, and the applicant's architect, Luis. And yeah, let's begin. Subject property, it's in the Meadowood subdivision. The zoning is suburban density residential, 30,000 square feet, AKA R30. The property size is within the urban growth boundary, therefore this is the allotment that is correct. The property is 42,882 square feet in size and is conforming to the zone district of the R30 zoning. Again, the request is GMQS allotment for additional residential floor area within the UGB. Requested additional floor area is 600 square feet. If the allotment meets threshold for the scoring, then the Planning and Zoning Commission will move on to activity envelope review and site plan review. I will just kind of include both those requests in this single slideshow. So the existing conditions, I know it's numbers is never a strong suit, but in chapter 5, the lot size is calculated, removing access easement and right-of-way easement, so that's why the lot area is calculated in the sheet provided by the applicant at 39,592 square feet. The floor area ratio for the R30 zone district is 0.13, resulting in a allowed floor area of 5,147 square feet. In chapter 6 of the code, there is an additional floor area for Meadowood subdivisions or specific lots within the Meadowood subdivision. So that is that 2,528 square feet that you see circled in red. And so that total allowed floor area is this 7,675 square feet as calculated there. So these numbers I'll just keep on running down actually. So the existing house, there's above grade 5,008 square feet, below grade space 1,686, garage 736, and the roof projections that are beyond that 8-foot allowance is 324, so the resulting floor area is 7,754 square feet. So if you look at that blue at the bottom, there's the existing floor area is approximately 79 square feet over the currently allowed. And so this is coming from this building permit that was issued in 2026. And I was curious why sometimes this happens, but over the course of time, the way properties are calculated, sizing, square footage is calculated, can change, so that's why there is that discrepancy of that 79 square feet. With this application, and this allotment, everything will be captured and everything will be compliant with the allowed square footage for the property. So the proposed floor area, again, we went through the existing, and then in the center column is the proposed, the 5,018 square feet, so again, the difference plus 10 square feet. And so you keep on going across the board, and the total proposed square footage is 512 square feet. So therefore, this bottom line down here, if we add up the FAR calculation plus the Meadowood bonus plus the proposed allotment of 600 square feet equals this 8,275 square feet of floor area for the property. And this is compliant, again, with that table 5.1B in R30 for a maximum, final maximum floor area of 9,250 square feet. So the process for a GMQS allotment for additional floor area within the UGB. So you guys will score the application based on the scoring standards of Chapter 6. And you have a couple options. You could do that, or by unanimous vote of the planning commission, decide to adopt the scoring recommended by staff. And that's in that staff report that you guys have. And upon completion of scoring of the planning, by the planning commission, you may adopt a resolution awarding the GMQS allotment based on the scoring and subsequent ranking of the applications. Unfortunately for you, there's only one application, so this will be the only application to score. And then the development allotments are effectively denied if the scoring fails to meet the minimum number of points. And so that minimum number of points to reach that allotment is 12. And so if the points are achieved, then we can move on to activity on open site plan as well.
Excuse me.
Yes.
As I recall from the last GMQS, we also have the option of looking at the activity and site plan and then going back and scoring it.
Well, I would like to say the application for an allotment is specific to the proposed site plan. So the site plan doesn't really change with the allotment, so it's kind of it is a combined application for a specific site plan, specifically for additions for allotments.
Okay, I'm not gonna be difficult about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So this application was submitted prior to January 15th, 2026. The maximum allotment in the UGB is 2,500 square feet of additional floor area, so that's the bucket that's allowed. The applicant is requesting again that 600 square feet. There's no competing applications. The minimum threshold is 12, and staff scored the application 19 points. So on the right is what you find within the Chapter 6 section of the code, and this is what is the possible number of points that you could achieve, excluding bonus, so that's why we're at that's why staff is scored at 19 points. On the left is how staff scored it. And just to run through some of the GMQS commitments that the applicant has provided, it's a total of $160,000, committing to specific organizations within the Roaring Fork Valley. And considerations with the master plan, like the master plan for this application is the Aspen Area Community Plan. And the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed floor area is also compatible with the surrounding neighborhood within Meadowood subdivision. And the property is currently served by schools, trails, parks, public transit, and open space. Excuse me. Proportionality, when scoring an application, the Planning and Zoning Commission should consider whether each commitment made by the applicant seeking points is proportional to the size of the allotment being requested. So in other words, an applicant seeking allotment for a large amount of floor area would be expected to make a proportionally greater commitment to obtain the same score as the applicant seeking a lesser amount of floor area. Some conditions for this allotment that staff has made within the resolution is that the allotment shall be conditioned upon recordation of a covenant documenting the commitments and representations made by the applicant in the application for the allotment and any amendments thereto. The applicant shall also satisfy any commitments and representations such as a recorded property interest, but in this case, a commitment to finance or provide capital improvement that is made in the application. And and these covenants will be reviewed by both county staff and the county attorney. And allotments shall expire within 5 years from the date of this approval. So transitioning over away from the allotment into the activity on open site plan, there's no expansion of the existing footprint of the residence. The addition is on top of, and the applicant's representative could help with this, I'm not quite the architect, but it's on top of the existing garage area, approximately 500 square feet. And it is compliant, again, with the criteria that is set forth in chapter 7 of the code on that left-hand side. The right-hand side X's is for activity envelopes, and that's only. The left-hand side is for both activity envelopes and site plan. Staff has received referral comments from these organizations and departments and have added their conditions or comments to the application and resolution. And staff has provided a recommendation for you all, approving the allotment and also approving the activity envelope and site plan. I'll take any questions that you may have.
So the the proposed house would be 8266, 9250 is the max again of the urban growth boundary. So there's 984 square feet left. Do they have the ability in the future to come back for that?
Yes.
Just wonder how that works.
5 bonus points, how did you guys calculate that? Financial commitment, what appear to be $160,000 in bribes, in financial commitment. But, just curious how you guys came up with 5, not if, if you took away the 5, it'd still meet the threshold, right? So,
Yeah, the 5 was because of those financial commitments, them not being able to score within a category. Some of them, say, the fire. I think the last time we had a GMPS application back in February, there was a donation for the wildfire foundation. But those guys had earmarked those commitments specific to the east of Aspen, because that was in Mountain Valley subdivision. Whereas the applicant today, they had just provided that donation, and because it wasn't specific to the neighborhood, which is the criteria, it was moved over to the bonus section.
Do you guys have a rule of thumb in terms of how much cash equals a point?
That's, I guess, we have the proportionality code section, of course, where you could compare the ask to, but maybe not exactly a financial commitment directly equating to a point.
I think we've discussed this before, they've used past projects as a metric for where the bar is, right? Does that sound right?
Yes.
I don't think it's an exact science, right, that system.
We do not have a scientific formula for equation.
Fair enough.
Any other questions for staff right now, or? Okay,
just on the subject of the donations, I would just say, while I appreciate the applicant spreading out the donations, by doing so, one made donations to certain entities that can sometimes polarize some people. And so there's a risk on the other side of spreading it out. Just want to make that comment. Not me, but I know a bit of opinions in town. My direct question is on the wildfire mapping. Is this the new wildfire mapping or the old?
This was the old.
Yeah, because it's very green, and I understand there's very little green on the new. When are we transitioning to the new?
Well, I had to have the packet before May 2nd, unfortunately, so now May 2nd was kind of
It's the effective date.
the effective date for the new guy.
And then the other thing to point out is that this team is already in for a building permit. And so this application would trigger a change order to that building permit. So they're operating under the old regs based on the change order policy. But the code was in effect on Sunday, so congrats.
Although that does bring up, even under the old code, is the existing home sprinklered? Okay,
Yeah, it's over the 5,000 square foot limit, so yeah.
okay, so there's no issue about just sprinkling the addition and not the old home or anything like that. Thank you.
Alright. Chris?
Okay. Is this on?
And then we just with the owl, so.
Oh, okay, alright, I'll ignore that. Is there a way to get me on here?
Are you on Zoom?
No idea.
The owl's looking at you, so I think you're on there.
Can you open?
Oh, did you not bring your own computer?
No. I'm using the
Chris?
computer set up here.
Okay, that one is not hooked up to the meeting.
Do you wanna email me your thing and then I'll just,
Yeah, or I can
Is
just
it
give you my.
flash drive?
yeah, here you go.
Yeah, share. Okay, super. Okay. Enough. Thank you, good evening. That's the Meadow at Meadowood. My name is Chris Benden with Benden Adams. This gentleman sitting to my right, Luis Menendez with Menendez Architects, here on behalf of 290 Heather Lane Realty. Diego Ardid is the manager of that LLC, develops other properties in town, including the one right next door, which is 293 Heather, which is a spectacular property if you ever get a chance to go on the property or in the building. It's probably my favorite house in town, actually. This is the property in Meadowood. Meadowood is about as straightforward as you can get for activity envelope and site plan. It's an existing, very suburban neighborhood, really no hazards to speak of as compared to other properties in the county. Slopes or stream conditions or wildlife considerations. Here is the, on the left of the screen, you see, you're not seeing any of that, are you? Sorry. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was using the wrong computer. That is the Meadowood neighborhood there. You see on the left of the screen, the school complex. On the right, you see the AVH towards the top of the screen, the roundabout, Highway 82. Left of the screen, you see the property survey with a highlight around the second floor expansion of the building. Staff mentioned that there's no actual footprint expansion of the building, it's making a one-story into a two-story element. Franco went through the square footage, repeated there on the right-hand side in that chart. Luis and I went over this multiple times, it's all correct, I guarantee it. If you wanna go through it, I would warn you, it creates a little bit of brain hurt to go through. But it is, we have both a floor area and a gross area to manage in this neighborhood. We asked for 600 square feet, which is more than the current design really demands, gives us a little bit of cushion for when Luis needs to go to discuss this with Joanna and the zoning department. He'll have a little bit of room there. The images on the top are the existing architecture, and then on the bottom you see in sort of darker line the expansion areas. So you see the image on the right, you see that one-story area turning into a second-story area. Go through the scoring. We have alignment with staff on all but 2 of the scores, and I'll beg your indulgence on those. We're aligned on this first one. These first 3 talk about public and private facilities. As an existing neighborhood, they basically have everything they need: fire protection, utilities, roads, systems, etc. So the score of 1 means that your existing situation is sufficient, you're not doing above and beyond. If we were deficient in some way, we'd get a 0. If we're doing more than what's required or adding to the system, we should expect a 2. So in fire protection, we have an existing street system that works fine. We have a pressurized hydrant system in the neighborhood where we have a hydrant probably about 60 feet away from the property. The property is sprinklered. So we proposed a 1 and staff agreed with that 1 score. In the road system, we have a sufficient road system, no safety hazards identified. To go above and beyond, we wanted to score a 2 in this category, so we decided to go above and beyond with a donation to a project that the Pickens County Road and Bridge has been discussing, which is a safety project in the Woody Creek neighborhood around the tavern to provide a little bit more pedestrian safety in that area where there's can be a vehicle and pedestrian conflicts. So we would ask your indulgence to look at this as a score of 2 because it is above and beyond the needs of the property. Similar on transit and trails, staff had scored this as a 1. We're asking for a score of 2. The property is not able to, contribute on property to transit and trail. There's no trail connection or transit facility right next door. It's well served already as an existing neighborhood. We decided to try to go above and beyond with a $20,000 contribution to the Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers. I'm sure you know that organization works on properties, trails and open space projects, especially important with the sort of day-to-day chaos in the federal government and just not perfect clarity around ongoing funding and so on. So RFOV will unfortunately likely be taking a larger role in those types of things that otherwise the feds would deal with. Water resources, we are on city water and will be complying with the water efficient landscape standards wells for all of our landscape irrigation. Going above and beyond, $20,000 contribution to the Roaring Fork Conservancy, who deals with in-stream flow protections, especially important in years like this. And on that, on water resources, staff had scored a 2 as well as us. We have alignment with staff score of a 2 on wildlife habitat protection. The property, as you can see in the very center of that map there highlighted, is not affected by any wildlife hazard mapping that the sort of hot dog looking things are road conflict areas, and the ponds or something, they're elk, I think, or deer, not sure. Anyway, but we're not anywhere near a wildlife hazard situation. So a score of 2 is justified there. Open space preservation, staff also scored this with a 2. That probably does not contain lands that would be, really appropriate to dedicate. There was a significant prior dedication of the land surrounding the subdivision, the actual meadow of Meadowwood. But for that, given the scoring criteria, we and staff both scored this with a 2. Hazard avoidance, same story. The project is not subject, the property is not subject to any natural hazards that are mapped. And because of that, a score of 2 is justified. These last 5 are the creative bonus that Mr. Kraybacher was asking about. And these are the criteria or the categories are set out in, are not set out in the code, but there's a potential for up to 5 points to be scored in this category. We set out these categories as what we felt was important in the community. We've done a little bit of work with the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition. And if you don't know, you should look into their Good Deeds program. It's one of the more interesting and effective programs that I've seen, where they invest in partnership with a private party in the purchase of a property, and then it becomes deed restricted at that price and then is capped going forward. So they have, I think, 19 homes that they've pulled into that program in the last 2 years. So they're actually making some progress. They've also been involved in some of the mobile home park stuff in the valley that you've, I'm sure, heard about. So $20,000 donation to that organization, and we are requesting a 1-point score on that. The aforementioned Wildfire Foundation that the fire district has set up. We've done some work for the fire district in the past for their headquarters station and other stations and affordable housing here in the Upper Valley. And this is set up for really primarily for this purpose. It's a nonprofit that people can donate monies to for various tax or growth management purposes. And those monies are then assigned to wildfire mitigation efforts. We added this category of social and domestic sustainability. We helped with the Response organization for their development of the facility in Basalt, from the purchase of the property through all the entitlements with Basalt. And it's a really great organization and great facility. Unfortunately, it's one of those facilities that we all wish we didn't need to have it, but we are glad we do. And they serve folks in the valley-wide, but primarily the Upper Valley that are subject to domestic and sexual abuse. We had a category of sustainable economy. There is a new nonprofit that I'm part of, the Aspen Area Community Trust, focused on preserving essential community serving commercial spaces and establishments, and many of those serve as a third space, which is sort of planner speak for not your house, not your work, but places where people relate to each other that are oftentimes commercial establishments. There's been sort of an erosion of what people feel are community serving spaces, and a sort of concern that that trend may continue. So that's what that nonprofit is set up for, so $20,000 towards that effort. Finally, we helped the Farm Collaborative with their facility at Cozy Point a few years ago. It's a fabulous facility. If you have a chance to go visit, it's really cool. We donating $20,000 to that effort to improve an irrigation system that they'd like to improve, riparian habitat in 2 locations on the property, and some fruit tree planting project that they would like to set up. So with that, we came up with a score of 22. It's sort of academic whether you adopt our score of 22 or staff score of 19, because they're both passing scores and we can move forward. I would engage your indulgence on the road system and transit trail system, because I feel we went above and beyond by those donations. And I'm sure our client would appreciate at least the acknowledgement on those. Happy to talk through the project in more detail. It's pretty straightforward. It's the type of project that you don't normally see that goes basically straight to building permit. It's checked for floor area and so on. Because of the size of it, it doesn't make any sense to purchase a TDR and take, 4/5 of it and throw it away. So we applied through growth management and looking for your approval. And with that, we'd be happy to answer questions that you have for us.
Any questions?
I just want to clarify what I think I understand from the memo, that some of the places that Chris is applying points are places, you put the point in another spot.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah, so that's part of the way you came up with 19 instead of his 22.
Our difference in scoring was between the categories of road system and transit and trails.
Mm-hmm.
We both scored the bonus point section. You could have a maximum of 5 points for that category, and we both scored that 5.
I see, okay, that clears that.
What question? What kind of fruit trees?
I don't know what kind of fruit trees. It was described as fruit trees to provide shade and provide a greater diversity of plantings on the property.
There's certainly some types of fruit trees that draw bears,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think, I don't know, there's something in the code on it in terms of allowable types of fruit trees.
Yeah, and probably proximity to residential structures as well. I don't know, I sort of trust Evan's, perspective on this, but I don't know what types of fruit trees he's thinking about.
I know within their referral comments as well, it wasn't just all about the planting of trees. They talk specifically about creating a more sustainable water source for especially this upcoming season. So they're trying to make efficient water for their farm.
For what farm?
Farm collective, that's what.
Oh, right, yeah, planting them out there
Yeah.
at the open space.
Yeah, no, they're not on our property, they're Evan's operation, yeah.
Do you know what the Meadowwood Homeowners Association says about planting, landscaping? Whether they,
I know as part of the architectural review, they would need to comply with, Pickens County standards. They're also need to comply with the city's wells program for water efficient landscape. And I, like anywhere in town, they do have bears roam through the neighborhood. I don't know if you have any more color on
We've gone through the HOA design committee approval process and they approved the project already.
I would suggest double checking on the fruit tree.
We're not.
Yeah.
That's out of the alleged open space on Highway 82,
Yeah, that comes with
the
the
farm collective.
Oh, I see, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were talking
Yeah,
about
it's out,
the.
that was my error for mentioning that.
Okay.
It is out of Cozy Point.
I will tell you that I read through each of the referral comments and I was impressed by the fact that not only did they come back positively, thankfully receiving what you gave, but also mentioning that it would be very helpful to them in specific ways. And some of the organizations talked about those specific ways that it would, where they would apply it.
Yeah, but
It's a good application, it's really well thought through. I think their donations or contributions are well thought through. I think the only thing that I thought about is in the transit and trails, I know we always try to, some properties don't have a trail that is connecting. But did wonder why, is that at the Aspen Nordic Council has that cross-country ski trail that's within like 5 feet of the boundary line of this.
Right.
Of this property. And I know that in the past that they've had, an issue with Meadowwood in their long-term lease with whether or not, I think they have like a 30-year. I know a couple years ago, Pickens County donated some, or made a contribution to revegetate the field where the Nordic track is. So that would have been, I think, a natural, trails, even though it's not technically connecting to the property, that, and I'm not sure how that would work, but I do, Aspen Nordic Council is a 501c3, I think, right? So that might have been something that got the bonus point multiplier, just because the trail is, they have like ski in, ski out, cross-country ski access from their property and that,
One of the things that we look for is an effort that is already sort of kicked off the ground.
Yep.
And that we can, so we're not trying to invent the wheel.
Yep.
And there's, there's plenty of efforts all up and down the valley. The Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, again, is something that we thought, with the deficit of federal funding, their role is gonna be all that much more important. And they already have a system in place, and it's well run and well respected, so that was sort of the thought process there.
Any other questions for Chris?
I hope you don't mind me asking it this way. We had a bunch of the Woody Creek Caucus DPC people here and wondered what they thought about the pedestrian project, or if that was on the radar screen, because I had not heard of that before.
Maybe Chris, you could tell us a little bit about that,
It's,
did you understand?
yeah, my understanding is that, Pickens County Road and Bridge has had this as sort of on their wish list. And Aaron Wackerly in our office, lives in Woody Creek, and I think is a little more familiar with both the sort of the problem and the discussion of the solution. And I don't know if there's actual plans yet, but I know there's a desire to have a little bit more pedestrian crossing safety situation. And I know, all of us locals kind of know to slow down. It's sort of hard to go fast through Woody Creek with all the sort of stuff on the road. But people are just sort of going back and forth across the road, and there's not a lot of, control there, I guess. So, I think that's what the overall effort is focused on. I don't know that they yet have specific, tangible, projects to implement. But it's something that's been, I think, on Road and Bridge, at least on our wish list for the last couple of years.
Okay, but it's a crossing, they're not expanding the road or anything like that, it sounds like they're.
No, I think it's about keeping cars and pedestrians in a safe environment.
But I also think it's also kind of I think Andrew Knapp, the county engineer, is trying to continue the work that was done on Lower River Road with that resurfacing project, improving the drainage, and kind of continue that all the way up Upper River Road as well.
That's a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's what the description in the packet says: complete repaving, surfacing, drainage improvements, traffic calming. I know there's refined signage, speed tables, pavement markings. I know that this has been discussed at times in Woody Creek Caucus meetings, but not once, it hadn't gone anywhere. And there were pros and cons to that. So I wondered if the caucus had worked through those and was favorable on this.
I should say with all of these, once the money is to the organization, if that organization can do that project, great. If there's some barrier to doing the project, they'll need to reassign those monies as they see fit, including the county. So if they decide to not do the project for whatever reason, the money doesn't come back to us.
other questions for the applicant? Anyone?
Public hearing, is this a public hearing?
It is. GMQS. Alright, public hearing, we'll open public hearing. Does anyone have any comment on the application we have in front of us? You guys aren't here for GMQS. Okay.
So Zach, I do have one attendee online, Kevin Warner.
Yep.
Kevin, if you would wish to speak, please raise your hand.
He's for Phillips Bunny.
Then we have no one else.
Alright, well, I'll keep public comment open for the next application.
We'll
Close
for
this
this
one.
Alright, we'll close public
Yeah.
comment and then we'll reopen it. Okay.
Got it.
Alright, public comment is closed. Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
I'd make a motion to approve the staff scoring. Approve application.
Doug has made a motion to approve staff scoring on this GMQS application.
Understanding your concerns, Chris, the scoring, and I don't know how we acknowledge the fact that we think it's great to get additional money and thought it through, but sticking with staff scoring, we can approve it and move on.
So there's a motion to approve 290 Heather Lane GMQS site plan application and approve staff scoring. Is there a second?
Yes.
All right, we have a second. Suzanne,
Can we have some discussion?
please.
It's not really on this application, but, I'm back to the, buying points program, which every time these GM kiosks come up, it's been a topic. And we always are like, oh yeah, we're gonna do something about it, nothing ever happens. And as I understand now, at least from what Frankel was saying, a lot of times staff looks at, okay, what happened on prior applications for a guideline as to, how do you get a point? How much does a point cost?
Yeah.
So I think that, I don't know, I would just raise it, and I would also, I guess, make the comment that I don't think we should use prior applications for the purpose of, determining, how much cash you'll buy a point or whatever. My reaction on it would be, maybe we try and, true, growth management is a little more challenging than just buying a TDR. Under the new code, presumably, one of the proposals, we're gonna split TDRs into 500 square foot increments, right? So, TDR prices are $750,000, $800,000, at least, they kind of come down from, the heights that they were at. So maybe we ought to think about that, just in terms of how does that equate between the incentive or disincentive of, buying points, going through GMQS, which clearly, is more expensive. You've got planning fees, you've got application time and so on, whereas, a TDR is kind of just off the shelf, assuming you have a receiver site. So there's a lot of times, you can't buy a TDR off the shelf and just use it because, you can't land it, right, on the property. But that's really my only comment. I think it's a great application, and, very modest expansion. And, if we had 500 square foot TDRs, they'd have to buy 2 of them, so they'd kind of waste, 400 feet or whatever. So, but, well, I guess we can take that up when we get to the new, if and when we get to the land use code. We can talk about that, whether, 500 is right, or should it be 250, or do we wanna, incentivize people to come through growth management, because I think you get better projects, I think, clearly, if people are coming through growth management.
Yeah, I mean, I know this board, for years, we've been talking about the strengths and weaknesses of the GMQS system and how we can make it more competitive and how we can, where it's falling short. And so, yeah, I would love to start that process.
So we'll look for a memo from Franco and.
Yeah, on how to fix GMQS. Memo, just, you can get it down to like one page.
Summary, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want me to respond? Or no?
Say again?
Do you want me to respond or?
Sure,
So-
yeah, I'd be interested in what you.
So next Tuesday, you have the comp plan. And then after that, we'll take the comp plan to the board. And then we are currently prepping an implementation plan, with various code amendments. We're assembling sort of modules to go through. And GMQS and TDR and the sort of scoring process is one of the first modules out the gate. So, more to come. We wanna do a joint meeting to go over all of that with you and the board. But that, we're already kind of poking at it, so I'm glad you made that comment, Joe.
I've often wondered about financial contribution as well, and whether it's a negotiation. I've been told it's not a negotiation, you can't ask for those. So I agree, I echo your comments that it seems completely arbitrary, you know. Throw some money at it, but throwing money at problems is a way of moving forward sometimes, so.
Alright, we have a motion by Doug and a second by Susan. Any further discussion? Suzanne, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
I know, I've got to mess that up.
It's like.
Suzanne, we have a second by Suzanne
Susan?
and Susan. Any further discussion? Alright, I'm gonna call a vote, for accepting the staff scoring for the 290 Heather Lane GMQS, urban growth boundary application. Joe, Mason,
I'm in favor.
Doug,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that passes unanimously. Alright,
Okay, awesome,
You
terrific,
might wanna
thank you.
consider a name change.
Yeah. Somebody once tried Susie on.
not good.
That didn't go well either.
Alright,
Just a short form.
Yeah.
I just,
Or Sue, oh.
up next, or
Yeah, we'll just,
do you wanna take a
Here's,
break?
you wanna do a break or if you wanna, I'll roll to the next
I'd
one.
like a 2-minute break,
We'll
no
do-
more than 2
We'll
minutes.
do 5 minutes.
Let's keep going.
Thank you, everyone. I'm doing my best, Jennifer.
I'm here.
Well, how was it?
Are you gonna sit in this chair? And you can sit here and you're with.
yeah, we still, yeah,
Do you need it?
no, actually,
No, okay. And no computer? You don't need a computer? Okay.
I'm gonna get out of yours, or I'm just gonna use this back. Give me a leave your chair. The parking lot.
Wait a minute, this isn't working.
Yeah, simple cars and all the little, yeah.
I think you met with Susan.
I was gonna. Well, that was gonna send them an email.
Okay.
Like, Well, okay, let us know.
Store that view what's coming next.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot here.
Good.
Do you need to help you with anything?
Nope, should be good. I was trying to be efficient.
So you're a Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah,
I'm a May the 4th.
I know. And my grandson is a May 4th.
Ah, love it. Well, happy birthday. I didn't actually say that.
Happy belated birthday. Okay. Now, I am curious. We're getting Suzanne's documents.
Yeah, we did a 5-minute break. Sorry.
Sorry about that. That was my bad. Yeah, we did a 5-minute.
Okay.
Well, I was on mute for Franco's, so I don't know what happened.
I was worried it was me because I switched.
Oh, right.
Rye is online.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Meeting started. No,
Ready whenever you are.
bye.
Ready, bud?
Yep.
Alright, we're back. Pickens County Planning and Zoning regular meeting. We are on to the Pickens County Phillips Mobile Park location and extent review, continued from April 21st. Nicole.
Yes, thank you. I'm joined here by Kevin Warner and Kara Silvernagle. So I don't have a presentation prepared, but just, some bullet points for you. The staff memo, includes 3 topics that were, some of them were discussed at last meeting. One topic was the hierarchy of the long-range plans. Related to this topic, should also see a copy of a referral letter from the Woody Creek Caucus. It's basically, about that question of which plan holds more weight in this location and extent review, the Woody Creek Master Plan or the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan. We went over last time that both plans would be applicable for review, and then the finding of non-conformance with one plan, that being the Woody Creek Master Plan, would essentially be finding this project not in conformance. So it's a little benign the conformance with the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan. We did look at the 2003 Pickens County Comprehensive Plan, the table in there for the status of adopted plans. There's a statement that says that the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan remains in effect, but more recent plans, such as the Woody Creek Plan, have amended and replaced portions of the comprehensive plan. We worked this out that essentially, since there's no clarity on what the replaced portions are or are not, that we would leave both findings in the resolution. Again, knowing that at the end of this, it's not in conformance, so there's no opportunity to go to permit. Happy to discuss that more, and I see Rise on the call as well, so if you have more questions about that, we can go there. The second topic is, last meeting, the April 21st meeting, Suzanne Caskey offered some specific excerpts from the Woody Creek Master Plan to include in the resolution in order to add clarity about the findings of nonconformance. Thank you for providing those, Suzanne. You'll see that all 4 of those excerpts are now in the resolution.
Thank you.
Absolutely. The third topic is also related to a conversation that came up last time about what does Colorado Parks and Wildlife think about this development, the development proposal. So I did have time to refer this project to CPW, and they did provide comments, and you'll see that is in now in your resolution as finding 10. I said finding 10, but it's not finding 10.
It's in the
Oh,
packet.
it's because he's numbering. Okay, so this is, sorry. Thank you. The numbering is messed up. This is 10 in your packet. So essentially, CPW provided recommendations to consider for future development. So as Curtis Tesh reviewed this, he didn't have a problem with what was proposed, but conceptually, if this project was approved, these recommendations would end up being conditions of approval. Just talking about kenneling the dogs and avoiding the fruit-bearing trees and that sort of thing. So that is in the resolution before you. Those are the 3 topics that are reflected in your resolution. I'd like to hand it over to Kevin and Kara, and then we can do questions, or I'm happy to answer questions about these changes in the resolution.
That works.
Okay, go to staff. Great.
Thank you. Similar to Nicole, I don't have any additional presentation. We talked at length about the project last time. But my focus when we were here 2 weeks ago was really on describing the Phillips Mobile Home project and what it was. And after listening to a lot of the public comment 2 weeks ago, it became more apparent to me that it would be prudent to add a little more context for the record regarding why the mobile home park was purchased by the Board of County Commissioners back in 2018, and how that project, as it's presented to you today and as it was 2 weeks ago, helps to really meet that 2018 board intent. So last time we met, I did hear some of the citizens that came up to talk about the project express concerns about preserving the mobile home park, and that is exactly why the board decided to purchase the park back in 2018. They made the purchase to preserve that naturally occurring, already existing affordable housing that's provided by the Phillips Mobile Home Park. And the board made the purchase with kind of 2 sub-goals in the forefront of their minds while they did that. One was the commitment to improving the safety of the mobile home park and also to keeping it affordable over time. And so, you know, a couple of things that staff found after purchasing the park and digging into it a little bit more, it became more obvious that the supporting infrastructure was in a state of disrepair that was more challenging than they originally thought. And it became more apparent that a full replacement of all the water and wastewater infrastructure as well as some other safety mitigations were going to be necessary to, you know, provide that safe environment at the mobile home park that they're looking for. And when you do that, you gotta bring all those new things up to current standards, which is not easy on a mobile home park that's well over 50 years old. So when you start to analyze those costs of bringing that infrastructure online, the analysis kind of shows that in very broad round numbers, that about 80% of that cost is incurred just to bring the existing mobile home park up to the standards to improve the infrastructure to provide that sustainable water and wastewater facilities. And then by adding a very moderate amount of cost, about 20% or so, and a moderate amount of extra infrastructure to the water treatment facility and the wastewater treatment facility, we're able to then accommodate about 50-ish% more housing units. And while I recognize that some look at that and say, this is additional density, it doesn't fit within the master plan and those kinds of things, the purpose of adding those units really is to look at that long-term operations and maintenance costs and trying to spread those costs across more units rather than focusing all those costs on the existing mobile home park and the existing residents there. And by spreading that across, you're able to spread the cost about 50% across those additional units. So by doing that, those costs become more affordable for both the current residents of the mobile home park and for future residents of the mobile home park. And so kind of bringing this all the way back to where the board was at, is they really did purchase the property with the intent of that preservation of affordable housing in the valley that was already existing. And by the project as proposed, we're able to do that in a way that maintains affordability over time as well. And so I recognize, Nicole's done a good job, and everyone else at ComDev's done a good job of taking a look at and recognizing that this is not in alignment with the Woody Creek Master Plan. But just wanted to make sure that, kind of for the record, the big why behind why this was purchased and why the project looks like it is really to continue to meet those goals the board set at the very beginning. So thanks for a little bit of extra time, I appreciate it.
Any questions for staff?
No, I was just thinking, and I want you to double check my thinking and see if it's correct. I understand what you just said and sympathize with that, because we all know that we need more housing, affordable housing. But our duty here is to look at location and extent. And that's why we looked to the Woody Creek Master Plan. And the VOCC has to deal with budget matters. And so while my heart gets swayed, my head tells me I need to stay in line with what actually the charge to us is. But you did that well.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah.
I will, if we have no further questions for staff, I'll open it to public comment.
Tom Elbrook. I'd like to speak first because there's an Avs game on at 6 o'clock here, so I'll make it quick.
Priorities.
Priorities. Priorities that I'm here. The idea that the Woody Creek Master Plan is the master plan that the citizens have put together since, 1990 something, and it's been updated. It's been a program or a plan that we fully support. I think the idea that it would be nice if staff could be a little bit more proactive to see, to put the cost together as to what the current residents would be facing. Because I really, really believe that this is not preserving housing, this is creating housing. That the majority of the people that live in the Phillips Trailer Park are clawing at their fingernails to stay alive and make their payments and live their life. And they've made a real commitment to the community, and I just don't see how the financials work. And it's a great plan, but there's no numbers to support you, and it would be a shame to lose our current residents, which I think will happen. They're going to be replaced. They're going to be, they're going to be replaced. The county has owned the property for 8 years. They got $1 million off of the purchase price to put in a septic system, sewage disposal plant. Nothing's been done. They've been somewhat of a slumlord to these folks in spending money on planning instead of actually the infrastructure that could have helped them along the way. Building out there, it's been demonstrated that through our Metro District development of affordable housing and the W/J, it does not support the rafting. And it's too inconvenient to go on to get a bus, a shuttle that is not very timely, that has stops along the way, that is being used 7 days a week by one, seven rides a week, and it just speaks that it's inconvenient. And I don't see where that would have be a bigger turnout if the Phillips is developed to this extent that you're having it. The corridor of 82 has been a sacred cow for 60 years. It was a sacred cow before affordable housing came into effect. And to turn that around and do the sprawl in Lower River Road, as I mentioned the last meeting, is a really philosophical change in the part of the county, and it's disappointing to see. I would suggest, as a suggestion to county staff, is that back in the day, there was one Aspen-Picken County Planning Department, and at the Armory Building, and they worked in unison. And now I see a real separation between Snowmass Village and Aspen and Picken County. It doesn't seem to be a lot of communication. And if the staff could arrange for a Zoom meeting with the Snowmass Village and Aspen, and to put their heads together and their monies together and put the housing inside the city limits, we would knock a dent in the traffic pattern, congestion. It would be where the infrastructure is. The infrastructure costs would be so much lower because it already exists. And it's where people want to live. You have the ball fields, you have the trails, you have transportation, you have a community. And by commingling the funds, we would also preserve our rural lands, which has been this 60 years of philosophy, and maintain the land and wildlife, and we could be forever thankful for making an attempt at solving or making an impact on our traffic congestion instead of adding to the traffic that this proposal, this development does make. But first of all, or lastly, thank you, P and Z, for your commitment and your time and your empathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Go Avs.
He's gone.
Anyone else, public comment?
Hi, I'm Kathy Walgus, 1870 Lower River Road, and I spoke my piece last week or a couple weeks ago about my opposition to the Phillips Trailer Park project as it's been presented. And I still feel very strongly against it. You had mentioned that Pitkin County had purchased this land for the preservation of their affordable housing program. And I'm thinking to myself, we should prioritize preservation of the land, of the wildlife that is abundant in that area. We should be preserving those, not preserving a public program. It's just not a good location for employee housing. Everything you do requires a trip in the car. I live there, I know that. Everything I do, I'm in my car. On Highway 82, adding more congestion. I just don't see where this particular location is going to, it's going to provide housing, but it's actually going to exacerbate the traffic, which is now becoming more of a problem than anything in our valley. So again, I would like to see this not be approved. It's not in compliance with the Woody Creek Caucus. Thanks.
Hi, Amber Krakowski, resident of Phillips. Thank you for some clarification. Kevin, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the P&Z. Just real quick, outside of Phillips, I think that this is something that Tom brought up. There's a much bigger thing going on right now, and I didn't get involved in the community until kind of Phillips the last couple of years. And what Tom said about entities not talking, I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have. And with the people that I've talked to, there's kind of this overall feeling that right about 12 years ago, something happened and there was this division and nobody in these government agencies really talks anymore. And I would love to, Nicole, when you said that there are these things in the works about, code and whatnot. Like, I would love for the counties and the cities to start looking at how do you guys get together and start to create these open doors within your organizations to really start to come together and create solutions, as opposed to what I feel is just potentially a lot of wasted time and not many solutions because there's no open conversations. So I'd love to see things being brought to the table with the full scope and perspective. I'm against the development. I think it's too big. One thing that you said about the cost, and this is maybe me just not understanding development at all, but if you're looking at affordability and cost, why isn't there a water treatment plant or a basic 2 septic system that doesn't cost $15 million? I only see this large number, and to me, isn't there a simple fix of something that's affordable to support 42 homes, moving those 10 people over, and it's this giant bill that's created that we do have to pay for. You know, you talk about the initial why it was bought by the county was to preserve the mobile home park. None of us have ever received an email or letter, any assurance that we are gonna be able to stay there. We may be preserved, which to me says, well, you'd still have employee housing, but we're gonna scrape the mobile home park. You're a single woman, you get a 1-bedroom or a studio at Truscott because you still have affordable housing. You know, I put a new home on there 10 years ago. There's nothing to say that I can still live in the place that I live in, under the roof that I bought myself. And that, I think, creates a very, it's insecure, you know? I may have housing in the future, but is it gonna be the housing that I choose, or is it gonna be me being a byproduct of the bigger picture, which is what's best for the community? Big development, we can't really fix the mobile home park, so we just gotta scrape it and we'll provide you housing somewhere else. And until I get a letter that says that I'm not gonna be kicked out of my house that I bought, and I'm not gonna be kicked off that property, I can't trust anything that the county comes forth with, because they've had 8 years to work on this. And all we've seen is a huge project, millions, what, more than 1 million, less than 6 million. Yeah, our rent is cheap, but, you know, I would prefer to see some action and what's gonna happen to the people that currently live there, that have jobs, that want to stay there. Yeah, I appreciate all the effort that you've put forth, to looking at this, because the location, it's like I said, come down, live at my house for a week, you'll see what it's like down there during on season. It's, you know, it's dangerous, it's rural, yeah. Anyways, thank you for your time. I'm gonna pass the mic to the next person.
Thank you.
There you go, let's go together, come on. This is hard for both of us.
No worries. Up here. You can have
That'd be
this one.
great. So we live on the riverside.
Who are you?
I am, I'm gonna read mine first. I'm gonna get hot and I'm gonna cry. It's a hard day for me for other reasons. Fuck. My name is Christy Kiesler. I live at 1 Phillips Riverview. Before that, my brother lived there for a total of almost 2 decades. He came up in the 90s, late 90s. I'm a chef. I teach culinary at CMC Aspen. I am from New Orleans. I work at Clark's in Stonehouse Village as a supervisor and a butcher. I participated in Heritage Fire last August in Stonehouse Village and came in second only to a peach. I was pissed. We were all pissed. I grilled shrimp and steak. I won. I've integrated myself into the community with no carpetbaggery notions. 2 years ago tonight, my brother Rusty died in my arms. Days before we would open a restaurant, I knew immediately that I wanted to get out of the heat of New Orleans and move to his property in Snowmass and retire. Upon arrival at Phillips Riverview, I became aware of the changes Pitkin County was steamrolling through my new community. I have a unique perspective, having grown up and lived through the politics of Louisiana and Los Angeles, California for 13 years. I spent the last 22 months bringing myself up to speed with my surroundings, my neighbors, Woody Creek caucus meetings, and meeting new friends. Making new friends. It is crystal clear to me that what is at play by the county. They bought this community knowing full well that they would be reneging on handshake promises, changing their dialogue to fit their capitalistic needs. There are so many reasons why this project isn't, as my father would have said, a doable deal. I want you to see the human aspect to this. This is my family home. My house can't be moved. It's a lovely place for me to be, and with my brother's cat. Yeah, I'm a cat lady now. Never thought that would be a thing. But I don't drink, I don't smoke, I've been sober for almost 14 years. So it's not this rumored community of ne'er-do-wells and drunks. I work hard, I deal with my life and my grief. And again, today's a really hard day for me. Thank you.
I know I speak for everyone else in the room. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Grief is hard work.
It's the worst. It's a bitch.
But I have a great book I'll tell you about before.
Thank you.
Hi guys, my name's Ali, and I live at 7 Phillips Riverview. I live right next to Christy, and I think all of us just feel really insecure. I'm not a housing developer. I won't pretend like I know anything about any of this, but obviously all of us feel a little bit insecure. I know the proposal is to be affordable housing and everything. We're just worried and fearful, and it's scary to have so much uncertainty for a long period of time. It would be easier if we could kind of know more sooner than be kind of on the hook long term the way it's been. And I've been in the Valley for 8 years, and it's been hard. I'm 31. It's been hard all of my 20s to get stable housing. So I understand why when housing is threatening, it is the scariest thing to anybody. So I'm not somebody who would be like, oh, we don't need employee housing. We do need employee housing. It is just terrifying to be a resident in this situation, just because housing scarcity is scary. And it's just as simple as that. It's not personal, it's just really scary. But yeah, there's ways to feel about it all the ways. And I know we need water infrastructure. I know we need things to be dealt with. I'm not in development, I'm not in politics, I don't know how things work. I want the best for everybody, and that's just how I feel. Yeah, and we're a good community, and we're all local, we all work hard, she works hard, I work hard, and we're all diverse too, there's different age groups and everything, so I think all of us would like to not feel so scared. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Tony, please.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Toni Kronberg, and I look a little different from you saw me last time with a sling on. So I read through the Down Valley Master Plan, all 335 pages of it, and I cannot understand how it is found that this application is in compliance with the Down Valley Master Plan. And the reasons being is that the Down Valley Master Plan is divided into 5 different areas. The one we're talking about specifically is Woody Creek, also McLean Flats area. The whole plan was designed to preserve rural character and to keep growth within the urban growth boundary up above Woody Creek, up above the Snowmass area. So that's a conflict right there, is the fact that this application is increasing the density in an area that's supposed to be designated. It's an AR10 zone, which is agricultural residential, but the focus of it is rural. Then also in the Down Valley Master Plan and the Pickens County Land Use Code, it states that new development should not create new infrastructure. New development is supposed to be built where existing infrastructure already is, meaning the water treatment plants, sewage, septic, all that. What's happening in this application is one of the county's assertions or points is that, well, we want to build this bigger infrastructure so we can build more affordable housing. Instead of saying, this is what we have right now, the infrastructure that we need needs to be right-sized and best fitted for the development that is currently in Phillips Mobile Home Park. The other thing that was really fascinating to me was that I can't, again, understand how an extent and location review can apply to this whole area, because on page 85, underneath objectives, in the packet is actually page 243, how they want to see the rural character preserved is transfer of development rights, purchase of development rights, conservation easements, and application of the GMQS. And none of that is happening in this application. The next thing is that, let's see here. For transportation, on page 88, it states that the growth areas need to be well-served by transportation systems. And we all know that Woody Creek and Phillips is not served, well-served, really not served at all, especially this time of year. You have 2 off-seasons where there's no rafter going down there, and then it's very, out of a 24-hour day, I think there's only 6 hours that they actually operate one time an hour. So in the Down Valley comp plan, it doesn't serve that. And then I think, you know, I support all the comments that everyone else has stated. And then also the purpose on the contract that was purchased by the family that owned it was to preserve affordable housing, not to expand it. And that happened after the contract happened, the Board of County Commissioners. We have a chair that's no longer the chair of the Board of County Commissioners, where they wanted to increase the density. And then, in my opinion, what they did was they said, okay, we have this sanitation system that needs to be replaced, so let's make it bigger. In order to support it financially, we're gonna have to add more affordable housing, which again goes against the grain and the intent of the Down Valley Master Plan. The other interesting thing is that Down Valley Master Plan is so outdated, and it keeps referring to future land use maps and future this and future that. So I don't really believe it's applicable to this 2026 extent and review location. And then the roads, the diameter of the roads, there's a classification. And in the Down Valley Master Plan, the streets are supposed to go from, I think it's 12 to 2. And while McLean Flats Road has been widened to that, this Lower River Road is not in conformance with that. And then I live in Snowmass Canyon. I'm not in part of this district, but I live across the highway. It is incredible the amount of elk, deer, coyotes, wolves, every kind of animal imagined. We don't have tigers, but we do have bears. And yes, we had some on our porch the other day. And when I think what the intent of this Down Valley Master Plan and this particular area's preservation of rural character, wildlife habitat, historically it's been agricultural, grazing, wildlife habitat, and then we add another double the amount of intensity in steep graded areas that would be like a California mudslide area, that I just don't think that it's appropriate. And I do want to make one comment, is that the county has spent considerable amount of money on the application to see if it's deemed conformance. We would not know now if they had not spent the money to say we need 1/4 mile of a culvert for potential mudslides going through Phillips Park. So in my opinion, that money has been well spent, because I think it shows us that this is not a good location for this affordable housing. And we do have other areas that could handle this application very easily. But again, thank you to everyone very much.
I have a question.
Okay.
In talking about the Down Valley Master Plan, and I understand this, I can feel one thing on this shoulder, and this shoulder can speak to me differently, but you quoted the Down Valley Master Plan to show us how it's not in conformance, but then you also said that the Down Valley Master Plan is too old to be applicable to this. Where do you come down the strongest?
I apologize. Could you repeat that? So,
Okay,
the question was, which,
You said in your initial presentation, you noted numerous ways in that 300-page document that this proposal by the county does not meet the Down Valley Master Plan. It's not in compliance with the Down Valley Master Plan. Right?
so it's basically, is it criteria or is it outdated, which is what I'm focusing my points on. So we should not be using this plan because it's outdated to begin with. But if we did use the plan, which the county has used, there are many sections that I just spoke about where it's not in compliance. So it's like a double whammy. We have two really good reasons why it's not in conformance or compliance with the Down Valley Master Plan. But, okay,
Thanks, Tony.
no, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Anyone else, public comment? Do you have anyone online, Bonnie?
No, well, we have Kevin Warner, but that's it.
Still?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't log off when I came downstairs.
No worries. So there is no public online.
Alright, so I'm gonna close public comment and open it up for discussion amongst the board.
This is because of another issue, the airport issue, that I recently looked up. Who gets to say which master plans or comprehensive plans are applicable? And it's the Planning and Zoning Commission, that's one of our jobs. I think, am I remembering correctly that the planning office said they went to the Woody Creek Caucus master plan for the main backing of your conclusion, and put away the reliance on the Down Valley Master Plan, because there have been changes, but the changes aren't recorded well.
I think what we talked about last time was that we reviewed both plans, and essentially a finding of non-conformance with one plan, that gives you your answer. There could be 6 other applicable plans that this project could be conforming with, but since it's not conforming with the one, that's the headline.
I see.
Yeah, and that's why your resolution is titled that way. It doesn't say anything about the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan.
Right. Do any of you see any reason to also find it not in conformance with the Down Valley Master Plan, or does this work?
My recollection was the staff memos found it in compliance, or conformance rather, with the Down Valley Comp Plan, but not in conformance with the Woody Creek Plan.
Okay.
But regardless, I think that it's not in compliance with either one of them. It's not in conformance, rather, I think that is the standard, not compliance, it's conformance. So I'm not sure we need to resolve that, maybe we'll resolve these priority issues in terms of comp plans when we get back to the 2050 vision plan, because there's certainly issues, well, that's a topic, right, to be discussed when we get to that, because that's basically saying, we're the granddaddy or whatever, and the 2050 vision plan controls over any caucus plans. But, we'll talk about that later, I guess. The other thing is that under the Home Rule Charter, master plans are, supposed to be the primary document for making decisions. So I think that'll be another discussion when we get back to the 2050 plan. That's just my 2 cents on that particular topic.
That's good. I go with it.
I mean, I don't see this as changing much, whatever, at least not my opinion. I appreciate Kevin and whatever, having to pick up the mantle on this, and taking a lot of heat from the planning commission at our couple meetings here, but, it's almost like, okay, we spent all this money, we spent $6 million or so to buy it, we spent, who knows what, maybe $1 million, to do all these plans and, you know, we got a big water tank that's up in the draw, up in the, you know, whatever, rock face, and, you know, a lot of whatever grading happening, and so now, because we've spent that money, we've gotta spend more money, and because we're spending more money, that justifies putting more development in. It sounds like private developer, you know, exactly what a private developer would say. It's like, hey, I spent all this money to buy the property, and now I've invested all of this, and I can't earn a profit on this until I, you know, really add a lot of density. You know, again, we're back to the fact that our location and extent is not binding on the BOCC, and it's just our recommendations of what they should do. But, you know, I think that, it would be a lot more copacetic with the community and everything else if we got back to preservation and not expansion. You know, it was apparent from the last meeting, you know, as I understand, there's 4 parcels, 1 has been preserved. You know, we're doing this additional, you know, this, 100% increase, i.e. doubling approximately the capacity on 1 of the parcels, maybe I'm wrong, and that there's 2 other parcels that are, at this point, not planned for further development. So, you know, it'd be nice to hear, you know, to get the county commissioners, if in fact we get overruled on this, you know, what you know, is that gonna happen in the future? It seems, given the, you know, the batch plant and the water system, that that's inevitable. It's kinda like, look, hey, we spent all this money, so, you know, why wouldn't we expand? And as I understand, this is planned to be a rental project in perpetuity, versus some of the other mobile home parks, such as Woody Creek, where, you know, people are allowed to buy their property. I think that's, you know, and again, I'm not advocating in favor of the project, but I would think that that maybe is something that, you know, the county should think about. In fact, if they do overrule us, is it really fair for the people that have suffered through all of this to be, you know, uncertain in terms of what their future is and not be able to actually, whatever, have, you know, a long-term future at their location? I think that, a rental, tends not to be maintained as well by owners or by tenants as if you own it. I think there's, you know, certainly, some incentive when, you know, it's something that you own to, you know, have it be better than it would be otherwise. Overall, though, I'm still back to where I was before at the last meeting, that, I don't find it in conformance with either of the master plans. You know, we're trying to limit the destruction of our rural part of our community. As I mentioned last time, someone was like, you know, what do you mean about Southern California? But yeah, you go back 50 years in Southern California, you had little towns, then they were separated by country. And then, you know, you had another little town, and now it's, you know, LA to whatever, San Diego is a big sprawl. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, that's what our valley's becoming, but this is whatever, you know, another brick in the wall, as Pink Floyd would say. So I'm not changing my position. I'm hopeful that the BOCC will take some of these items into consideration when they do their review.
So I missed the last meeting, so I don't have the history of what went on. You know, there's an economic theory about sunk cost. County saying we've got this sunk cost, and so we have to amortize it or whatever. I mean, if you have a sunk cost and it's not working, you gotta give it up and move on. And so I think it's important that that's, you know, understood as well. It doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, the issues that we have with the 2050 comp plan are exactly what we're talking about here, whether it's a Woody Creek master plan versus what the county wants to see, you know, where the primacy is. And the other piece that we have a problem with the 2050 plan is the Highway 82 corridor down there. We want to encourage more development, or not encourage, but allow, I guess. So I guess my last one is the applicant has to know they bring them to us because it's the county and this is the only thing that they have to do to get approval. You know, there's no way that a private developer would be approved. And it's the county, and so it's a difficult question though because of the housing. You know, if it wasn't a housing project, I don't think there'd be any motivation or to do it if there wasn't the housing crisis that we're in now. That's the overriding piece. But I'm in agreement with Joe. I think that to get it back to preservation as opposed to expansion of everything in the county and saying no. Nobody says no anymore. I think that this P and Z is saying no, and I support that.
I'm troubled by another aspect of this hierarchy of plans that nobody seems to have talked about. I tried to find the 1987 Down Valley Comprehensive Plan on the web. I have so far been unsuccessful, so Tony, if you have it, I'd love to get it.
I can send it to you.
But what I did find is the 2003 Pitkin County Comprehensive Plan that was amended in 2023. And on page 5 of that, in reference to the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan, in a section that's relating all these and talking about the hierarchy, it says, plans adopted since 1987 for areas previously included within the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan area supersede the DVCP. That seems to say it all right there. And so while I appreciate the effort to kind of split the baby a little bit and say, well, if one plan is non-conforming and the other's conforming, we go with the non-conforming. I'm not sure that this document says something stronger than that. And so I just wanna be careful and not set something in the resolution that sounds like a precedent or an interpretation that is counter to what's in the 2003 and 2023 revised comprehensive plan document. That might create problems later on. But 1987 was a completely different time. I know a few things about land use code and in this county, and in 1987 there was nothing, everything was coming together organically, and it wasn't until I believe it's 2006 that we actually put together a code in a comprehensive fashion. And so 1987 is just, it's a whole different time with a whole different valley. I remember back in 1987 in my life, living in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and it's not the Phoenix we know today at all, nowhere close. And I imagine this area was very, very different as well. So I'd be careful defending the 1987 plan and its relevance in this application. And overall, knowing what I know about Woody Creek, you don't have regular RAPTA service. You're rural, you're not near anything. You better be ready to drive or go to the tavern, that's it. But even shopping for groceries, it's good to have 2 refrigerators and freezers so you can stock up. It's still even today, it's just as a matter of convenience. And I will say that I've met a number of people, not a large number, but people have recently moved to Woody Creek and got employee housing. And it seems like sometimes they're like, great, I got employee housing, then they move there. Well, wait a minute, I'm not in Aspen or anywhere close to that, you're not. You really have to want to be there. This is not a convenient location for transportation or living unless you really, really want to be there. It just seems like the wrong location for the scale of the project that's intended.
Just to mention one thing, that I think that you said, you thought that maybe we didn't have a land use code before 1987. We had a very strong one precedent setting one in the late 70s.
I haven't been able to track that far back. I only know that beyond 2006, it's very difficult to pull anything up.
Well, I will say, I was on P and Z back in 2006 when we adopted that 2006 code. And one of the primary reasons that we were doing it was to fight sprawl. And that's kind of, not where we're at, given, the various location and extent reviews that we've been doing.
Is Rye there?
Yes.
Oh, there he is. Rye.
Hi, Suzanne.
I have rising concerns about how seriously the BOCC will take the results of a location and extent review from the P&Z. Specifically because I was in the grocery store earlier today and ran across someone who was commenting that she had been at a Emma Caucus meeting the other night where one of the commissioners there were two commissioners there, but that one of them she quoted as saying the location and extent review was only advisory. Is that what we're up against?
I guess all I can say, Suzanne, is that not knowing who said what, we've talked about before when we were dealing with the airport that the location and extent review process and the decision of the planning commission in that process is more than a recommendation. The planning commission is the decision-making body on the application that's in front of you right now. And should the planning commission find conformance with the applicable master plan, whatever the planning commission may believe that to be or find that that is, the permits could flow from that particular decision. And conversely, if the planning commission finds non-conformance, no permits can flow unless the BOCC takes a subsequent action in this case or in other location and extent review applications that you've seen. Another governmental entity takes a subsequent action to overrule the planning commission decision. So that is the process. Whether, I guess I can't really comment on, what you're up against. But my opinion is that the BOCC takes the work that the planning commission does very seriously, and a denial on the application will be reviewed and given sufficient weight as they're trying to decide what to do moving forward on this project.
On this project, in general, with location and extent review, once it gets to the BOCC, what would they have to, besides saying we don't agree with you and we're gonna vote in the opposite direction, who bears the burden of proof once it goes to the BOCC?
Well, Suzanne, I don't know if I fully understand your question. There is no burden of proof moving forward. The criteria for the planning commission and the quasi-judicial process that you all are participating in now, sitting as a quasi-judicial body, ends once you make your decision one way or the other. At that point, the BOCC is then tasked with making a decision to either move ahead with the project or not, utilizing its decision-making function, taking into account your resolution and any statements or recommendations or findings or conclusions reached therein, and then other aspects of decision-making they may need to go through. And those aspects may be many. They could be financial. They could be some of the concerns that have been raised by members of the public either tonight or in front of the BOCC at a later date. There could be other recommendations from other bodies that may sway their decision one way or the other. So what they consider once they review a project after it's been heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission is broader, and they're not limited to the record that's in front of the Planning Commission as they make the decision. Does that help answer your question, Suzanne?
Yes, it won't help me sleep any better, but I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. If, I guess we just have to hope that the Board of County Commissioners would listen to our decision and consider it in detail. But I know you can't make that happen, and I can't either, but it would, you know.
Yeah, they don't let me vote on any of those decisions, Suzanne.
Well, let me add what I would say, because you were talking about burden of proof, which is kind of a court standard. But, you know, if someone were, you know, if we go through this process, and Ry can correct me, because I'm sure he's been through numerous of these, there is what they call Colorado Rule of Civil Procedure 106, right? And that is a procedure where a decision by, for example, a Board of County Commissions can be challenged in court. And the essential standards are, did they abuse their discretion, or was there a denial of due process? So, you know, those are kind of fuzzy standards, but, you know, kind of the denial of due process. Okay, did you follow the procedures that, you know, are laid forth in the land use code? And then an abuse of discretion is even, you know, fuzzier. But those are kind of the, you know, that's the kind of the legal standard, as far as I know, with respect to a decision that may be made by a Board of County Commissioners in Colorado.
Because when we've looked at location and extent reviews in the past, for instance, the landfill was pretty straightforward. I had thought until the last 2 months or 6 weeks that a location and extent review was pretty straightforward. I don't think that anymore. And now that we're spending hours and hours and hours on it, to think that it might go to the BOCC and then be ignored.
I think that the location
Be a
extent
shame.
review is very clear if you follow the code in front of you. That's why the landfill is simple. When the county is trying to do things
Yes.
that are not following their code, the location extent is complicated, as we say, because we're saying no to the application.
I think there were easier applications, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not so controversial in terms of, you know, growth and the rural character of the rural portion of the county.
What Pitkin County has been all about.
Well, in not applications where the county's on staff deemed it not in conformance with the master plan, right? We haven't seen, I don't think we've seen that, and I guess, Suzanne, what I've been thinking the same thing, and you know, my only thought is, all we have to worry about or concern ourselves with is our decision in front of us, and whether this is in compliance with the Woody Creek master plan, the Down Valley master plan, which it's not, right? And then once we make our decision, and our decision is sound, we can't worry about what happens after that, you know, that's outside of our purview. right? So all we have to, you know, and all we have to concern ourselves with is whether this application is in conformance with the Woody Creek Master Plan, and it is not. So then, you know, what anyone does with the decision after us is outside of in God's hands. Right, and outside of our, yeah, right, and so,
What my mother said.
yeah, so that's all I would, you know,
Yeah.
that's my thought,
I
so,
understand. Okay,
yeah.
thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, of course.
Ryan, I have one more. When you were talking earlier and you referenced other governmental entities, what were you talking about?
Yeah, sorry, Zach. You know, a lot of your location and extent review applications have been, the proponent of the application has been like a fire district or a school district, or you've done a couple for the city of Aspen, I believe. That's what I was talking about. So
Okay.
usually in that circumstance, the decision to move ahead with the project in the face of a finding of nonconformance from the Planning and Zoning Commission is made by that local governmental entity, whether it's the city or, you know, I think the one that comes to mind where the planning commission found nonconformance was the fire district application for housing out at the AABC. And ultimately the fire district took an action to overrule the planning commission, although aspects of their of the project were modified, I guess I'd say somewhat substantially after the planning commission made a finding of nonconformance. And I believe, I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong, either units, the number of units were reduced, or I believe the height of the building and maybe the top floor of units was removed from the project after that. And then it was ultimately built after the fire district made an action based on whatever governing documents and requirements they have to move the project forward.
Let me ask another question, Rye, although this is kind of, you know, somewhat off topic. But is there anything in the new legislation that's come out of the state whereby nonprofits who own their own land will be in kind of the same position as the fire district or Aspen or the county with respect to zoning and the applicability of our zoning?
As far as I know, and I think I'm pretty up to date on this, there's not any effort, as I understand it, to include nonprofit entities, and I know there's some additional qualifiers that go along with that, but nonprofit entities, and add them to the list of entities, I'll say again, that could utilize the location and extent review process, but there are certainly efforts to make and place those type of entities on a more streamlined regulatory track for moving ahead with certain types of projects, mostly affordable housing type projects, but there's some other types of projects that potentially can be streamlined through regulatory processes. And some of those have to do, you know, some of those pathways, and I don't think they've been fully hashed out yet, could look like an even more streamlined process than location and extent review.
Well, maybe that's something for a future P and Z meeting to look at.
Sure. Sure.
Right, I have one more question.
Sure.
If we vote in favor of this resolution saying that the application is not in conformance with the Woody Creek Master Plan, for instance, does the VOCC have, if they disagree, do they have to show us why it is in conformance with the Woody Creek Master Plan?
No. No, they do not.
They just override our decision, or they just make a new decision.
So the way that the BOCC has, and I don't know what they're gonna do with this application, but generally in the course of this type of process, once the planning commission makes a decision, the BOCC, well, of course, it would have to be a decision and finding of nonconformance, because otherwise it wouldn't go back to the BOCC. But once it does go back to the BOCC in the face of decision from the planning commission of a finding of nonconformance, the BOCC would consider that as a formal resolution, so a 2-reading resolution, and make a decision on that application or the project, really, not limited to just the application, but the project really with that type of action. Is that what you're asking, Zach?
Yeah.
And those would be public hearings at which
Yep.
people could show up and put in their
Yep.
2 cents.
No doubt.
If the BOCC, does not agree with us, in order to overrule, do they have to have a majority vote?
Yes, they have to take all actions by a majority vote.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have a resolution before us finding the Pickett County Phillips Mobile Home Park location and extent review not in conformance with the 2016 Woody Creek Master Plan. And there's a recital with multiple different parts. Is there anything in this language, specifically in the recital, that anyone has a comment about, or I would entertain a motion?
Well, I'll put it to the group. Should this refer to the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan, or should we refer to the 2003/2023 Comprehensive Plan as superseding the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan so that only Woody Creek follows? If you don't think that's necessary, I will defer.
I think part of it is in the original, in the application, staff found part of this application in conformance with the Down Valley Master Plan. There was small sections of the Down Valley Master Plan that they had referenced, that were, could be, interpreted as finding this project in alignment. So I think part of the thing is that the 2016 Woody Creek Master Plan is the newest plan, and it's the plan that specifically references this development. So that would be the most clear language and the most specific language that is in reference to this application. So I think that's part of the reason why I would.
Dump it.
Yeah.
Keep it as clean as
possible.
Right, that's what I'm wondering, do we dump the DVCP, or do we keep the current language acknowledging the DVCP's?
Well, I'm looking at, and Nicole has it on the screen as well.
Yep.
I don't agree that it says 9A, the application maintains existing and creates additional safe, affordable housing in types and styles for all residents. I don't know if that was residents of the park or whatever. And that the increased dwelling units achieve sustainable infrastructure costs for the future. I don't think we have any basis for that. B is maintains existing scenic byways and wildlife habitat. I don't think so. Maintains historically irrigated lands for crop or food production, are represented to be maintained. maybe at this time, until we get to the next parcels. So I mean, my take would be that we find it not in conformance with, either pull it out completely or find it not in conformance with, 87 DVCP. And then add, I haven't looked at the 2023, but we can certainly add that. I don't know if that adds any firepower to it or not.
I mean, that's a P and Z resolution, that's why I
Yeah.
wonder about it.
We need to.
It's just
Yeah,
enough just
I
to
guess.
say that, under 2023, the DVCP doesn't matter and doesn't conform with Woody Creek, and so we go forward.
And then add non-conformance with the 2023.
Well, yeah, that's a document right there, go to page 5, document page 5.
Could I jump in?
There you go.
Please,
Yeah, Suzanne.
I just wanted to point out, I think what Joe pointed, there's an inconsistency in the language. This summary of adopted county plans differs from the language in table 1, which is referenced in table 1, then goes to the plans. And that was the language that Nicole had provided earlier, which was that it supersedes the plans in certain, that the newer plans, say Woody Creek plan, supersedes, and I'm paraphrasing some, but not all of the language, have replaced portions of this plan. So unfortunately, our end, there's an inconsistency in that language, but there is language in the plan that refers to table 1, and then I feel like this is the language we were referencing, why we looked at pieces of the Down Valley Comp Plan for references. So I would say if you want to find not in conformance with, that is the plan, the DVCP is the plan we would look to for statements to support that finding, not the 2003 comp plan.
Thank you, that was very helpful, Suzanne, I appreciate it. That makes me more comfortable leaving in the existing reference to the DVCP.
But changing the resolution to say it's not in conformance.
I have not seen the DVCP because I couldn't find it, so I would defer that aspect to you guys.
I promise it's online with all of the rest of the master plans.
I did send it to you.
Well, if Nicole, you can put up 9, I think section 9 is of the resolution, which is kind of what's on the table at this point.
So Joe, do you want to pull section 9, or what do you?
I'm more comfortable with it being there, given the reference that Suzanne,
In the table,
But it says we find it in
Sure.
conformance.
now the in conformance is a separate issue.
Okay. It would just say it's not in conformance and list the same items. Just kidding. I put a not before each one of them.
And the applicant did find portions in conformance and portions not in conformance with the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan, whereas staff did not, which was a little bit.
So you want to, should we go through these
one by one, or
one
how
by
do we,
one,
or we
how do you
pull
guys
the whole
wanna
section, or?
manage this? Of course, it says section 2, and obviously it's whatever.
Yeah, or like
The
number
resolution,
9.
it's just a number.
Yeah, sorry, that's wrong.
Right. So A says the application maintains existing and creates additional safe, affordable housing in a variety of types and styles for all residents. With recognized trade-offs, the increased dwelling units achieve sustainable infrastructure costs for the future. Do we agree with that?
I don't think it maintains affordable housing for existing residents, at least not at the same affordability level.
Yeah, what costs?
In
The same
types and
costs.
styles for all residents, I don't even know how you.
And are they gonna pay us a fair price?
What are the recognized trade-offs? That seems
Well, we can
Sustainable.
just maybe get rid of that one. I mean, we could have one finding in here, or one finding about scenic and one finding about the transportation issues that have been brought up. And just leave it at those 2, unless you have other topics you wanna cover.
I mean, I could help probably some, looking in the Down Valley Comp Plan, I mean, there are definitely statements related to, preserving ag lands, rural character, growth centers separated by rural areas. Again, there's some of the broad statements I think that are made that we could pull from. We just have to dig a little bit into the Down Valley Comp Plan.
What's our deadline on this again?
Is it 21st?
Tomorrow? Our first meeting was April 21st, right?
Mhm.
And then so we
Does
have
it
to,
go from when the app was submitted or from the date that our hearing was?
from the date of the hearing, I think.
The hearing, and so next week we have the comp plan, and then the 19th.
So we have till May 21st.
19th is open day.
I mean, I don't know, my take on A is that it doesn't do what that says.
Yeah, I think I'm scrapping basically all the letters, Joe. And just starting over with, the topics.
Then B, I guess, I'm not sure I follow it. Currently says the application maintains existing scenic byways and wildlife habitat in their current condition. By expanding development in a clustered area to achieve community housing goals and preserving a significant portion of the subject property for rural character and habitat.
I think the key aspect here is a previously clustered area or a new clustered area. Clustering means UGB.
I mean, part of it I could agree, because I believe one of the 4 parcels in the subdivision was designated as conservation. Is that correct? Or do you know?
No, it's not. Oh, one of the.
Kevin, do you know?
There was open space, there was a resolution establishing like open space access to the river, but that didn't have to do with the subdivision.
It didn't have to do with subdivision, and I have read that, and I believe it actually expired and wasn't re-up, so.
And then I would have a question, for C, are the historically irrigated, are the other 2 parcels that Joe's mentioned that aren't developed or aren't planned to be developed, have those been historically irrigated?
Primarily, yes, so if you look at there's a pasture that's on the east side of the road, that would primarily be left alone. And there's another pasture that's on the west side of Lower River Road, and that also would primarily be left, again, not entirely undisturbed, but primarily undisturbed at this point.
So maybe if we want, we could ask staff to kind of break out, these 4 parcels, or identify the ones in which that have been historically irrigated. And I don't think it's gonna help us in the long run, because the county can do what they want, but currently, historically irrigated parcels, you're required to maintain 95% of the historically irrigated lands. So I think it would be helpful, from our perspective as P and Z, to have that called out, and which part, and where, and kind of identify where those areas are. I don't know what everybody thinks about that, but nice to see.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and. Okay. Reserve district guidelines.
Oh, what is that?
Well, what do you think about D before we jump to E?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what do we do on B, by the way? Do we
well,
say that it
just
maintains
related
or it
to-
doesn't maintain?
Sorry, I'm still on the irrigated lands. I'm just sharing our data that we have about irrigated lands.
Okay.
And the statement that's made in the application and the resolution that the irrigated lands are protected is an accurate statement.
And accurate or
It
inaccurate?
is accurate.
Yep.
The
It is
irrigated lands are located to the southern part of the property, whereas the development that Kevin's team was sharing with you was the clustered development up in this area where the existing mobile homes are. And then these hatched polygons are what the county regulates for historically irrigated lands. And these are just all the different years that we have the data from. So the proposed development's not shown on here, but it's clustered with this other development. But, so I think if they're in compliance with that irrigated lands, I think we can just delete that statement and focus on other issues
Yep.
with conformance.
Okay.
So essentially, Joe, I just deleted all those sub-bullets that are in the packet.
Oh, okay.
All of those like A, B, C?
Yeah, I think we just kind of start over in a way. So the 3 new bullets state the applicant represents expanded growth, density, and development in the rural area impacting scenic byways. We can say and wildlife if you want. The expanded water and septic systems are considered a growth center or growth generator, however you want to state that. And then the B is the applicant represents development with minimal access to transit systems. We could say something like exasperating a car-centric development pattern. And then this last statement about preserving those rural areas that are separated by our urban areas.
Somehow I've lost you now.
It may be easier to look on the
Is
screen
that
right
under
here,
9? Okay.
cause she's got the editing going on right now.
Right now.
Good.
Oh yeah, this is not in your packet, this is live, we're doing this together. And Suzanne is helping, thank you.
This is great, thank you.
Nicole, just real quick, is it supposed to say the applicant, in the prior version, you said the application?
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, it does. Yeah, we'll be consistent.
Do we wanna mention anything about wildlife? You got the scenic byways. Expanded water and septic systems are considered a growth generator.
On what, Joe would we,
Choose on A.
I know that. But I was just gonna ask you, on what do you base wildlife habitat that, the development in their area impacts wildlife habitat when the Colorado Department of Wildlife said it didn't?
I'm not sure exactly what they, I haven't seen that referral comment, exactly what they said. But, my gut would be that there's a lot of different wildlife that comes through there, deer, a lot of elk and so on. And the more you create an activity, an area of activity, what do you call it, an area of influence, I believe they call it, in the code. Impacting, scenic byways, and I suppose you could, add, increasing areas of activity with respect to wildlife and something like that, if you want to flesh it out a little.
CPW said that the parcel is within mule deer winter range, winter concentration and severe winter range. Additionally, within elk winter range, as well as within a quarter mile of elk severe winter range. parcel is also within a bear human conflict area. They don't say, don't go here, but it seems like a lot compared to other comments I've seen from CPW.
Yeah, especially if you get into elk severe winter range. Of course, it's a quarter mile away, but you know, what's a quarter mile?
I was reading them for that comment.
Yes, yes, you were reading.
I don't know where I came up with, I just read that this afternoon.
You did, it's a paragraph right underneath there that says, where it says conflict, where they state given the new development.
In the decision making matrix, and we've seen this before, that CPW uses for whether a project has, impact on wildlife is not very, there can be, every single development project we have in Bacon County has an impact on wildlife or interacts with wildlife, and it might not be within the elk severe winter range or, winter range or mule deer habitat, but their decision-making, their tolerances are very high, right? For what they consider to be an impact. What I've found is that you'd have to be, right in McLean Flats, right in the middle of the elk, range for them to draw a red flag, whereas anybody that you talk to, look, any wildlife expert will tell you it's not the specific project, it's the
Area of influence, or
yeah,
whatever you call it.
in area of influence, and what is a severe winter elk range one year, the next year isn't. And the property's so close to the river, which is like where they have to go every day, so that, that it's pretty.
Kevin, I think you pointed out that,
I believe it.
they have no major issues with it. But
I was just, you were looking for that,
Yeah,
Suzanne,
I
you were
was.
trying, and I was just trying to point you out where it was at,
That
that's all.
makes me feel less crazy. But it makes me feel crazy again to read the paragraph above that and then to say that CPW has no major issues.
I do think you need to differentiate between, they say the parcel is within all of those mapped areas, and then, then where the actual development area is, because some of those more severe habitats are farther up, on the hillsides. It's proximate to them, and maybe part of the parcel is within it, but in terms of the corridor along the road. So I think that's maybe part of the difference, Suzanne, in how you read their comment.
Back to the resolution.
Yeah.
Go back.
It's better.
A question, on E, although it's gone now, originally it said the application complies with agricultural / wildlife reserve district guidelines. What are
Yeah.
those?
Those were analyzed in the packet on April 1st, and I did open up that memo,
Okay.
just thinking we might wanna go there. Okay, so here's the guidelines. Let me zoom in just a little more. So the guidelines are, I don't know if there's 4 of these or 5 of these, and so we I just analyzed each section individually.
Oh, I got it, okay, those are
Yeah.
pulled from the DDCP.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in terms of location, site planning, there's compliance about clustering the development and avoiding development on irrigated lands and using, locating the development close to the road.
Okay.
Visual,
The infrastructure.
agriculture, and then preservation lands. Those are the topics.
Are we happy with this? New language does look a lot better.
It seems like C needs some sort of a intro or something, that it just.
I was curious if we just popped it up here with this other one, since this
Yeah,
one's
they are
talking about growth.
Kind of linked
Or
together.
maybe you put it in the negative, the application does not preserve the existing development panel. Pattern. Oh, what you gonna say? Of course, we're acknowledging that the existing development pattern actually separates the rural areas, but.
Right. Alright, so we lost E and F.
That was integrated.
Yeah. Alright, how does everyone feel about that?
Yeah.
We good? Okay.
Okay, so we'll change the title.
This is an aside. Every single time we have a meeting like this, that goes on like this, I always want to ask the planning staff member or anyone else who's here, like you are, Kevin, do you wish that you had become a shepherd? It comes to mind every single time. Do you?
Okay, so now we have a resolution for the Pitkin County Planning and Zoning Commission. Finding the Pitkin County Phillips mobile home location and extent viewed not in conformance with the 2016 Woody Creek Master Plan, nor with the 1987 Down Valley Comp Plan. And we have included the changes that we just made to section 9.
Can I make a motion that we, Planning and Zoning Commission of Pitkin County, approve the resolution finding the Pitkin County Phillips Mobile Home Park location and extent review is not in conformance with the 2016 Woody Creek Master Plan, nor in conformance with the 1987 DVCP.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Craybacher. Do we have a second?
Second.
Joe Mason, second. Any further discussion?
I think that we need to do the same thing that we're doing with the airport, where we send it to you and you do a final review, to make sure.
Do that.
Right,
Yeah.
because we made all these changes on the fly pretty quickly.
Yep. That can be done. Alright, so I'm gonna take a vote now. There was a motion made by Joe and a second by Joe Mason. We're gonna take a vote on the resolution of the Pitkin County P and Z Board, finding the Phillips, mobile home trailer park location and extent review not in conformance with the 2016 Woody Creek Master Plan, nor in conformance with the 1987 Down Valley Comp Plan. Joe Mason,
I approve this.
Doug,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes, in favor.
Suzanne,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that's unanimous.
You have a gavel?
I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's
I'm-
right
No, I don't need that. Yeah, we're not gonna be, maybe we're not gonna be that dramatic.
We can all just say thud.
Okay,
There we go.
so,
Nailed
and then our next meeting is, May 12th, comp plan.
At 4:30.
Okay, and when has when's the Woody Creek racetrack been pushed to? Do we have a date set for that yet? Cause we,
Not yet. It'll be renoticed and rescheduled.
okay, alright. It was,
I saw it, pulled it, right, thank you.
but we had it and then, alright, well, thank you everyone for your time. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Yeah.
So moved.
Yes.
Adjourn.
I'm like waiting to see.
Thanks everyone for coming and spending your
Thank you,
valuable time.
Suzanne.
Stop game.